Welcome to the Embodied Wisdom Podcast.
I'm going to just start out with the most probing question I have because you are
Okay.
in my line of work. We do very similar things, and I'm
Yeah.
really excited to get your take on all this stuff going on in the world, particularly in the masculine feminine relationships. What do you think is going on in these relationships? Why are they so out of balance right now and just absolutely wacky? What do you think's up with that?
Oh, there's so many different aspects to that. One, it's the world itself, people being primed and things like that. So definitely the influence of the world and how people are getting raised, how they're being primed. But I also believe it's things like our food. That's really, really important as well.
Yeah, tell me about that. What's going on with our food?
Well, everything being modified, all the hormones in the animals and also like synthetics that just have a lot of effect on our endocrines and stuff like that. So it's really influencing our whole hormonal system. And you have people that just don't feel male anymore. You have people that don't feel female anymore. And I have very strong viewpoints on that, and like everything is kind of upside down. And then you also have social media, and not only are we being primed, but women, I feel like they don't really know how to be woman anymore. There's also so much misinformation of what it is to be a healthy masculine and then healthy feminine. And I also believe, we have both, that you can't be soft and nurturing and nourishing if you don't have a healthy masculine container for yourself. And that means protecting and providing for yourself first and foremost, mentally, emotionally, energetically, and all the intangibles first before the tangibles follow. And so there's also little to no education of, what is a healthy masculine energy? What is a healthy feminine energy? And how do we create balance therein? How can we be healthy therein? Yeah, and there's a lot of disconnection with ourselves and with others
Yeah,
and
so
with Mother Earth.
how do we call that back to ourselves? How do we understand, first of all, people don't even know they're out of alignment with their masculine and feminine because they don't, like you said, they don't have really a strong standard of the feminine or the masculine, or even knowing that we have both parts within every being. So, how does one first identify and then sort of balance out that masculine, feminine within themselves?
Yeah, I really believe it goes very naturally when you are kind of like a forever student, even if it's a student of yourself
Yeah.
and you desire to master oneself mentally, emotionally, and in all the aspects. You start healing yourself, you start introspection, and you have this self-awareness, and you start healing yourself. And when you start healing your inner child and you master self-love and you master the energy around you that moves through you and within you, then naturally you will be healing the masculine and the feminine energy, because the masculine energy is just providing, protecting, and providing. So that safety container, first and foremost, because once you're safe, you're able to thrive and you're no longer in a surviving mechanism. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That was me. I was very much in my masculine. And so when I attracted my husband, when we came together 19 years ago almost, I was so heavily in my masculine that I wasn't recognizing that I was drawing from him a more feminine because he had to soften to be around me, and I had no idea that it was my wounding. It was my childhood wounding because I had created, in order to keep myself safe in my childhood, I had to protect myself. And that made me very much masculine. And so here we attract this specific person or peoples for a reason. And we're sitting around like my clients, they're looking around saying, "Hey, how come I'm attracting all these toxic relationships?" And so tell me about how that little inner child must be healed in order to find that love for their self, soften those ideas they brought in very early in life in order to attract their ideal partner from that healed whole place?
Yeah, so that is an amazing question, Terry. This is what I get often from clients. Actually, they're like, do you feel like we have to like completely heal before we find our significant other? Um, Not necessarily, but ideally, yes, because you cannot help subconsciously projecting and your triggers, and you carry all this baggage within you. So what lives within goes without, like on the outside of you. So
Mm.
yeah, I do feel like it's very important to heal your inner child before you hop into any romantic relationship. And yeah, I do.
Yeah, I've noticed for myself, I healed within my marriage relationship, but for my clients, it's far more difficult and challenging when they have the other person because they attract someone with their complete opposite, programming. And so we're really, what I find with my clients is they're attracting someone that has the opposite attachment style, that has the opposite everything. So it is far more challenging for them to work on themselves because they are so fixated on the other person. And I have to tell them, listen, we're going to put your blinders on and we're going to go within you because we have to heal your wounding first and foremost. And yes, that is very, very challenging for most. So I've noticed that most people, they need to be single on their healing journey. That wasn't my
Yeah.
experience, but I have noticed most people need that. So it makes complete sense. And what is the first strategy you have with your clients to really start digging into those childhood wounds and those childhood traumas?
For me, it could be in so many different ways, but I like fast results. I like instant results, transformation. It doesn't need to take weeks and months and years.
Yeah.
And mostly because I always tell my clients, as you probably do as well, is you don't attract what you want and desire, you attract who you are. So your belief system and
Yeah.
the emotions you carry within you, the trauma you carry within you, that is what you are embodying, whether you like it or not. That's in your nervous system. That's even generational. That's coded within your cells. And your
Mhm.
cells are atoms, and those atoms are energy particles. It's all just energy. So it's so important to do that. And so I had actually, I don't know if I told you about that. Like I had created my own modality, Believe Alchemy, where we in just minutes, like fully alchemize belief systems. And when you alchemize belief systems, what happens is you no longer attract, for instance, if you believe all men are dogs, all men cheat, but you want like that white picket fence, you want to get married with those kids or whatever, but they just don't align at all because
Mhm.
what you want is this and this is where you're at. So how do you align them? And by removing that belief system or those belief systems, what happens if you clear your energy and then you can attract more of what you want? And so that could be one. Also, emotional, energetic release sessions, just clearing up the trauma, clearing up the emotions you're carrying within you, clearing that. And these things could be generational as well. These could
Mhm.
be things you picked up, absorbed from someone else.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's so many things you can do, but it doesn't really need to take a long time. And if you do take the long road and you don't have someone to help you to get there, I would advise like get someone to help
Yeah.
you there because it's so much faster. But if you're hard-headed, and we all sometimes are, I mean, go journal, figure out why are you triggered. If someone gives you the feedback, is it really a projection or is it something that's really true? Like if it's a projection, then great. And if it's not, then they have the love for you to tell you in your face and you can do something about it, which is amazing as well. So, like, what are the projections you make? What are the triggers that you have? Like
Mhm.
anything you're not a master of, where is it coming from? And then not go service level, but really go deep down to the root. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't do that. Like for most people I work with, they have so much guilt and shame that even examining those, That's why I think, like you said, find someone to guide you through it. Your results are going to be so
Mhm.
much faster. You don't have to take the long route like I did. I took the very long route because I am one of those hard-headed people. But of course, that worked in my favor because now I do the same thing as you. I get my clients' results fast because I'm like, you don't have to have this really long journey that I had. But one thing that I do see that we butt up against a lot is that ego side of them where that is riddled with guilt and shame that we have to clear out first. So, do you find that that's a wall that you see often in people?
No, I don't work with a lot of clients that feel a lot of guilt and shame about their past. I do have some, mostly females. Um, the guilt, if they feel guilt, it depends, but it's not necessarily from like the deep trauma. For males, it's more, I guess, gender roles because with me, my clients with females, it's usually of being a female and always needing to be the good girl. And for males, the
Mm,
guilt and shame usually comes from not allowing their emotions to be there, that emotions are allowed to be heard and seen and felt and acknowledged, and that they feel a guilt of doing nothing when they feel like they need to be productive every
yeah.
second of every moment, but not necessarily from, yeah, the whole.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's I totally get that with females where they were programmed very early in life that this is who I get to be and I have to please everyone around me. And so getting them to that truest, most authentic version of them often takes, some really deep self-examination. So tell me a little bit about your modality or modalities that you use to really quantum leap them, really go deep, really shift them in a very quick and lasting way.
Yeah, so with that, whomever you're working with, I always really believe in something that alchemizes or transforms and releases, whether it's energy work. So I have a modality I created myself. It's called Believe Alchemy, where we look for like the root cause and the belief systems that are within your system. And basically, I just connect with someone's subconscious mind. I do a lot of subconscious reprogramming, whether it's through direct hypnosis or emotional energetic release sessions or the belief alchemy. And we just look for the belief systems or the emotions and energies that are within the body that are stuck or stagnant. And we basically just release them. And belief systems, emotions, energies are just like human beings. They just want to be heard, seen, felt, and acknowledged. And when we do that, it often releases itself. At times, it would love to express itself a little bit more before it will release itself. But that's the same as if we're friends and I'm like, I'm sorry, Tammy. And that could be enough. But sometimes, if I'm like very angry, sometimes I want to express myself and like, Tammy, I'm so angry at you right now because of X, Y, Z. And sometimes I need that for it to release. And beliefs, emotions, and energetics are exactly the same thing. They only want to be heard, seen, felt, and acknowledged. And when we do that and we allow it to express itself in the way that entity or that energy would like to express itself, that's when it can be released. So, yeah, that's what I love to do most because it's very fast and instant. Um, but I also do like group work and I love that as well. And it's all a journey.
Yeah, it's
So
so
having
beautiful.
different modalities, yeah, it's so amazing to have that. And just to watch and witness this is so beautiful.
Oh, I totally agree. Every time I go through a process with someone, it heals me, because I believe that we're attracting, just like I said, the people that I work with and tend to come to me have a lot of shame. Well, that reflects me. That reflects the shame I'm still releasing. And so, and I think it's absolutely no accident that you do not experience that. You experience the good girl syndrome because, that's something that you dealt with. So I find it very interesting how we tend to attract someone that reflects back to us, or people, everyone in our life reflects back to us our own programming. So, how can people really identify the traumas that they have stored in their body and how can they release that? So, say they don't have someone like us to walk them through the process. How do you find that it's most beneficial for them to identify those traumas still trapped in there, and how can they let those go?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very beautiful question. And I wish that a lot more people ask that question.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, it's just life. It's life. It's being triggered by a video, by the neighbor, by a waiter. And then if you have that capacity to guide and heal yourself therein, explore it. Allow yourself to be triggered more by that video, by that person, and to really do that introspection. That's why I said it's so important to be like a forever student of yourself. Do that introspection. Be very curious about yourself, and then you figure out like what is causing this. And once you know what's causing this, you have the choice and you can decide to resolve this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love that you say it's choice because a lot of people don't believe that it's a choice. They think they're stuck with the system, right? One thing that really reflects to me that I always get very curious about when I get triggered by is my kids. Now, I
Mm.
don't know how old yours are, but I have 16, 15, and 7, but specifically the older ones. They got that program setting. And so when I get triggered, I look at that often and I'm like, what part of this is triggering my old woundings? But I love what you said about, and that's the piece I was talking to you about with the guilt. Oftentimes,
Mm.
if we have guilt stored up, we don't allow ourselves to get curious when we get triggered, to go into the trigger and say, what is the belief coming up for me right now that is causing these emotions? Because our emotions are our guidance system. So, what is there something specific that you walk people through when they get triggered besides being generally curious?
Yeah, so in this specific situation, what you're speaking about, I would definitely just encourage them to understand that why it's so difficult to look in the mirror, and that it's okay to love yourself with all the flaws and all the imperfections and the perfection that you are, because you are perfect, you're imperfect, you have flaws, and you're so amazing at the same time. And that you are your number one best friend, you are your number one cheerleader all the time, because you are with yourself 24/7. When the kids go to school, when they move out, when your husband's at work, you're with you all the time. So if anyone should love you the most, it's you, and to fall in love with yourself. And that you set the standard, and that actually sets the standard for how your kids and how your husband or your wife, if you're a man, can love you, and you allow them to love you. And that's that part, is loving and accepting yourself unconditionally first. It always starts with you. So I would definitely encourage them to feel safe within themselves and work on that bit of safety, to feel safe with themselves, because somehow they didn't feel safe enough to allow these parts in. And maybe they just don't feel good enough to, they have to be perfect to be loved. So they need to earn to be loved. And that's not true at all. So who else is better than yourself to be your own best friend and your number one cheerleader? And that is actually why I encourage to really have a coach like yourself, or like myself, or anyone else that is very experienced and can hold the safety container for them. It's magic, because like you said, you move through it faster. Why? It's because when you have like an auntie or a best friend or someone else, it's always a fair exchange in the sense of sometimes if we're friends, Tammy, maybe you need to give 90%, I give 10%, then it's 50-50, then it's 60-40. But when there's an energetic, symbolic exchange of an investment that has gone through, the
Mhm.
coach, the mentor is fully there for you. It's not like, can you hold space for me? Because they always hold the space for you. They nurture you and nourish you. They're your number one fan, your truth teller. They will hold up the mirror for you. They do everything for you at that time. And all you need to do, and the biggest investment a client can make, isn't the financial one, it's the emotional one, not to run away when the coach holds the mirror and just move through it. Even when it's
Yes.
difficult and even when it may seem hard, but that container is so sacred because a coach doesn't ask anything in return because it doesn't need to be reciprocated in that sense because energetic exchange is the investment made, whereas family member or friends, it's needing to be there for each other, and this person will be that for you what you can't be for yourself right now. So definitely, if you've been in Tammy's world for quite a while, I would say go for it.
No, you said it so beautifully. That exchange, that energetic exchange is everything.
Yeah.
Friends are not going to give you that level of transparency. Most of the time, frequency wise, they're on your level. And you need to capture someone who has a frequency above your level, who has obtained something that you have not yet found. And so we're able to stabilize you in that next level of frequency that you just don't have. Like for me, I love my friends. I have wonderful friends now, but every time I upgrade in my own frequency, there's a shift in my relationships, right? So that's what would, when someone comes into your frequency and you're holding this thing, which is what they want, they're able to more easily rise up because you're holding that space for them up there. So beautifully said. I really want to get into the topic of intuition because well, first I want to go back to self love because I think we talk so much about self love, and you did give some beautiful examples of how you can hold that self love for yourself. Like, for instance, that safety part is so big. So much of us are kept in this system where we didn't feel safe growing up. We didn't feel heard. We didn't feel seen. And so I
Mm.
think that's a big part of loving ourselves is saying, but another piece to that is where are you not loving yourself? Which relationships have you been holding on to that aren't in alignment with who you want to be? So we get to let go of that. But I'd love for you to get into the intuition piece because I think that is so very much connected with the self love. I mean, it's all connected, but if we have a heightened intuition, we're going to know when something's right for us and when it's not. So, how do you foster that alignment with one's own intuition?
Yeah, that is very, very interesting. And again, a very great question. I do believe the more you love yourself and the more in love you are with yourself, and I don't mean that cocky, arrogant, because that's actually insecurity.
Yeah.
That's not actually true self-love. But when you're madly in love with yourself or happily in love with yourself, your intuition, you will listen to your intuition. And it's again coming back to deciding who you let into your life, cleaning up your energy, making sure there's squeaky clean energy, understanding yourself, it's integrity, being a man or woman of your word. Um, Understanding your core values, and then also you have the self-awareness of your core values and implementing, then integrating, then embodying them until you are your core values. And then that intuition, the more love you have for yourself, the more you'll follow it because we all have it, but we don't always follow it. And the more unclarity there is around us, a lot of people don't really understand, well, what's like that voice within me and what is actually my intuition. And the reason is because they don't have clarity. They have a lot of unhealthy dynamics and energies around them. So it's always making sure your energy is squeaky clean, cleaning up your experience, the people, things in your life. So it could be a pen, a cup, a photo. It could be an experience like your job, going to the gym, walking in the park. It could be a person like your mom, dad, your auntie, uncle, your best friend that you've known for 30 years. But it's cleaning up those energies, making sure it's squeaky clean. Like, as you said, like your relationship dynamic with friends can change every time you upgrade your belief systems or the emotions you choose. But it's a choice. It's always making that choice. And the more you clean up the energy, the more in love you are with yourself, the more you'll listen to that inner tuition. And that is so, that's this inner guidance, this inner knowing that you already know. And that is one of the number one gifts that women have, because a lot of times when I get into icky situations, they actually already knew. They just didn't listen to that inner guidance.
Yeah, so true. I love that you connected intuition and core values because those are very much connected to, for me, I had to balance out two different parts of myself. And we have like many, many parts of ourselves. But there are some pieces where we really have to look at and be like, well, what's my core value here? You know, when we talk about marriage, even marriage is challenging right now because we're in this place of rapid growth, right? And to stay in alignment with a partner, stay that connected, I think that's why marriage is very much changing. It's not disintegrating, but it is changing massively. Less people are getting married, and less
Mhm.
people are staying married than ever before. So we get to look at those core values and be more in alignment with where we are at than where our partner is. And I think that's where people are really being challenged right now, is because when they find themselves on their healing journey, here they're in this marriage, they're in this life, committed to a person, they get to look at what are my core values. So how do you really guide a person to really connect to their core values?
I would just ask, what is most important to you in life?
Mhm.
And whatever that is. So, for instance, my core values is presence, love, and connection. And then intentionality and things like integrity. Like, but my three core values are love, presence, and connection. That is what I value most in life. So your core values is what you value most in life. But then again, it's having that self-awareness, then implementing, integrating, and embodying that. Those are the steps you take. And some already do that because they value that. But sometimes it might not be squeaky clean. It could be like, maybe we're on the podcast, but like I have a journal hanging around, and that's kind of maybe taking my attention, but it isn't the case now, but it could be. So my presence couldn't be like 100%, and maybe it's 99%, but cleaning all these little things up is extremely important. And you spoke about like marriages and which is so extremely important as well. And even within that area, I always say, get to know each other, like really, truly. And the most important things are the intangibles. And ask yourself, like, why are these the things you'd like to know? Core values within a marriage is so extremely important, especially the love and acceptance part, but also understanding someone's core values, because that's how you know choices they may make that you may not agree with, or um, actions they may take. If religion may be important to you, it could be that your partner's core value is family, God, and football, and yours is uh, God and family and football. But those that switch of family and God, those are two really sacred things. Is there something that could clash. And with some religions, there are. For instance, I grew up, and I'm currently not, I haven't been for years, but I grew up, for instance, as a Jehovah's Witness. So if my partner, um, and like our child needed a blood transfusion and he put God above family and I put family above God, we have a problem because that kid is not allowed a blood transfusion
Hmm.
by their religion. So, you know how core values play a big role. And this could be with different things. It could be politics. It could be that friends is a really big thing for them, or one values honesty and the one other values integrity. Like, there's a subtle difference, but what is that difference? You could be technically honest. What does it mean to you? Or does honesty truly mean integrity with honesty and transparency? So there's so many things to discuss even within a marriage that's so important. But yeah.
That is so complex. Interesting. Yeah, I was very, very religious for the majority of my life. I was grew up in religion. I was very dogmatic in it. And on my
Mm.
healing journey, it was one of the things that I let go of because it was no longer in alignment for me. So it sounds like that possibly is your story too. But that was a big piece that played into my husband and I's relationship early on, where it wasn't in alignment. And now we're a lot more because I've gotten to my
Mm.
core values of who I truly am. It's something that we're way more in alignment with. So that's so funny to me how it can appear a certain way. And this is the shifting of identity. When you go in and you heal those deep layers of
Mm.
yourself, your identity literally shifts because you are coming in tune with that larger part of yourself, the spiritual aspect of you that is eternal, right? The biggest part of you that comes in that gets warped by all the patterning and programming. And when we clear that out and clean it up, we get to the core values. But I don't know if one can find that until they've really gone through the healing journey and cleaned up the trauma wounds. Would you say?
They could have it all along. It's just easier to keep your core values, your true core values, and not from a trauma aspect when you're cleaning up those energies that aren't actually necessarily serving you anymore, and having that self-awareness, because the things that, even like loyalty, could come from trauma. And
Hmm.
even so, it could still be a core value, it can also stay a core value. But then the way you respond to it, you clean up the energy by cleaning up the trauma and the energetics that may not be serving you anymore, to really create a more squeaky clean definition of what loyalty truly means to you. So I definitely do feel like, you have your core values, but a lot of people that come from trauma or still live in trauma, they are so in survival mechanism that they don't really have the space to really think about their core values, unless
Yeah.
it's that one thing that keeps them going. They don't really have that capacity right now to focus on that, because all they're focused on is still the survival.
So, so true. So when we're in fear or survival mode, we're in contraction. And
Yeah.
when we're in love, we're expanded and it's safe to expand. But if we are feeling that fear and crippled by it, we literally, we can't, we're just in this little bubble, a tight little bubble. Oh, I, whenever I think about how I used to be, how I operated, how I lived day to day, I'm just like, how did I live in such a contracted, fearful mindset? It's crazy.
Yeah.
I would love to go into your story a little bit. How did you get on this path?
Oh, what path exactly?
Well, I mean, I just feel like most of us healers, will call them, because we're not actually
Mhm.
healing anyone, but we're leading them to heal themselves. So most of us healers came from traumatic childhoods. I've noticed
Mhm.
myself, I came upon my journey because I was so effed up and I needed help so desperately. And in my finding my healing is how is what led me to do what I do for others now. So I
Okay.
feel like that's the case with a lot of people. Was that not your story?
Um, yes and no. I think going into this goes very deep. So basically, everything I went through, I never really saw myself as a victim. I really grew up in a household where abuse was more the norm than the exception, whereas I don't even think there should be an exception in the first place. But I never really saw myself as a victim. And I knew that I needed this to be able to relate with other human beings and with a human experience. Otherwise, I'll just be floating around somewhere. So I needed that. And I have that. Where my journey actually started, like really helping people, was actually through COVID when um, I I still do work for like T. Harv Eker and Tony Robbins and things like that. And then everything kind of fell still. And I always believe in giving my time because time is love. And it's just a part of you. Just once you give out, it's just love because you can't ever get that back. And I ended up doing like a free self-love course, and people really wanted to work with me. And I didn't have anything in place because it was like, yeah, just doing this out of the love of my heart. But I do notice that people that known me for like 20 plus years, they're like, is this what you do? Oh, wow. I couldn't have guessed it any different because this is like you. Like, this is Rain. Like, you couldn't have done anything else. Like, the compliments I got from when I was like 8 to my teens to my 20s, it's still the same compliment. It's a lot of times that I can just hold space. There's a lot of motherly love. There is something in me that naturally nurtures and nourishes someone else's soul because, like you said, our past shapes us, and I want to leave people, for lack of better words, better than I found them, or
Yeah.
places. Like even, when you're in a toilet area and you dry your hands, just wipe down the sink a little and just because you know how it feels to feel hurt and you never want someone to feel like that ever. And so you can hold that space because you know how it felt. So
Hmm.
that's definitely a part of me. And a lot of people always felt very serene and very in harmony with me, very calm, just
Oh,
speaking with me.
definitely.
And yeah, so it's always kind of been a part of me, to be honest. And I only really got into this when people really started asking to work with me when I started my first self-love course.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Oh, yes, I feel all
Thank
that
you.
from you. You have a soft, warm, loving, gentle energy that is just divine. It's divine to be in your presence, love. And I am so grateful that you took the time to come on here and share your heart with us, share your just share your warmth. I think the world needs you. I thank you so much for what you give to the world. Um, yeah, I'm just grateful to have you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be here. Like, I've loved our connection so far. You're such an amazing, beautiful woman. And the
Mm.
way you host your podcast is just very, very in an exceptional, great manner.
Oh,
So
that's wonderful.
very warm and loving and caring as well. So I absolutely loved being here. Thank you for having me, Debbie.
Yes, of course.